After studying this module, you shall be able to know the need for theories and research in understanding aging, learn the classical theories of aging, learn the second generation theories of aging, and learn the new perspectives or theories of aging. The history of theoretical perspectives of aging is relatively recent. Before World War I, pioneer work in this area was done by Hall in 1922, Miles in 1933, Jung in 1933 and Buhler in 1933. Majority of work in psychogerontology has been done post-World War II. Researches in psychogeriatrics have been guided by a diverse collection of theories. The theories of aging broadly emanate from three discourses of biology, psychology and sociology. However, there lacks a pragmatic theory of aging that considers biological, behavioral and social factors as well as the interaction to explain the process of aging. Nevertheless, theories are the hallmarks of science and help in organizing and interpreting facts in a coherent manner. Let us first understand what is the need of theories and research in aging. Research on aging has three main values: cultural, scientific and practical. From a cultural perspective, every society needs to understand the process of mortality, the changes that occur with age so as to utilize this knowledge for better adaptation of the aged in the society. The factors that enhance the adaptability of the aged and their quality of life have profound implications and utility of all cultures. Scientifically, developing theories of aging add to the scientific knowledge established in this field for better organization, description, explanation and prediction of the process of aging. Development of theories also has practical implications. Older people are valuable. One of the important aims of gerontological research is to determine the skills and competencies of the elderly. For instance, fluid abilities like speed of information processing is biologically determined and tend to decline with age. On the other hand, crystallized abilities, for example, the knowledge of world events, may witness some growth as the individual ages. Some of the prominent psychosociological theories of aging can be broadly divided into three categories based upon the time that they were proposed. They are: number 1, early or classical theories, number 2, second generation or modern theories, and number 3, the new theories. Let us first understand what are the early or classical theories. Under this, we will first study the activity theory. This theory was propounded by Robert Havingust in 1953. According to this theory, certain developmental tasks are required to be successfully achieved at different stages of life. Successful achievement of these tasks lead to the contentment and success with later tasks, whereas failure causes unhappiness, difficulty in performing later tasks, and may even lead to disapproval by the society. This theory believes in action. Normal and successful aging involves preserving, as long as it may be possible, the activities or tasks of the middle age. Happiness is associated with the involvement and adjustment. On the other hand, maladjustment occurs if an elderly person is unable to maintain the activities of the middle age. The theory has several assumptions. Firstly, by keeping active life, people in old age remain socially, psychologically and physically fit. Secondly, the relationship between the social system and the aging individual remains stable. Thirdly, aging is conceptualized as a continuous struggle to remain active like in the middle age. Lemon, Bengston and Peterson in 1972 have stated two central assumptions of this theory. Firstly, life satisfaction and morale are positively associated with social integration and increased involvement with the social networks. Loss of roles like that during retirement and widowhood are inversely related to life satisfaction. Let us come to the second theory, which is disengagement theory. Disengagement theory connotes the withdrawal of the people from the roles and activities acquired earlier in lives. This theory was proposed by Cumming and Henry in 1961 and contravenes activity theory proposed by Robert Havingust. The theory assumes that people turn inward starting from the middle age, and this tendency progresses with age. Disengagement is characterized by A. a natural withdrawal from social activities and roles, and B. an increased preoccupation with self and decreased emotional attachment with others. Thus, successful aging implies a reduction in activity levels and decreased in involvement. Ashley in 1971 stated that this disengagement is not a single event, but rather a gradual phenomena that involves separation of an individual from several of his regular roles and activities. The three main characteristics of this withdrawal or disengagement from social system are as follows. Number 1, it is a natural process. Number 2, it is a universal process. And number 3, that it is inevitable. The theory suggests that as individuals grow older, they are replaced by younger people because older people are no longer useful. The aging individuals are aware of this and consciously dissociate themselves from the active roles they had occupied to make room for the younger generation. Cumming and Henry have also made a distinction between the disengagement of males and females. For males, disengagement is implicitly seen as retirement, whereas for female, role loss is in the sphere of family. For males, role loss is more problematic because retirement is very sudden and brings abrupt changes as compared to the changes in the family structure. Although the disengagement theory explains the psychological and social processes of aging, it does not provide an explanation for those elderly who remain actively engaged with the society and do not lose interest in life. According to Maddox in 1964 and Ashley in 1971, the theory apparently ignores personality factors and their influence on the process of disengagement. The proponents of this activity theory asserts that disengagement theory may be relevant to only a certain minority of elderly, generally the very old group, but the majority of the elderly maintenance of an active lifestyle has a positive effect on their well-being. Let us now come to the third theory called the continuity theory or the personality theory of aging. This theory of normal aging by Ashley in 1971 states that older adults generally maintain similar activities, behaviors, personality traits and relationships from their earlier years of life. Older people adapt to old age by maintaining a continuity in their internal and external structures. The internal structure of an individual comprises of one's personality traits, beliefs and attitudes which remain relatively stable with age. The external structure of an individual comprises of relationships and social roles. A continuity in the external structure supports maintenance of stable self-concept and lifestyle. This theory asserts that the individual's reaction to aging can be understood by examining the complex interrelationship among biological, psychological and social changes in an individual's life and the previous behavior patterns. This perspective identifies retirement as being problematic for the individuals as nothing in their previous experience will have prepared them for retirement. Newgarten in 1968 with his associates examined the life cycle by emphasizing on two aspects. The first aspect, which is important for successful aging, is the timing of the transitional events in the lives of people. Those life events which occur at their scheduled time, for example marriage and parenthood, lead to positive developments in the self-concept and identity which the individual carries through in later stages of life. On the other hand, unexpected events which occur off time, for example widowhood, accidents, etc., has negative consequences on the development of self-concept and identity. The second aspect emphasized by Newgarten is the study of personality types for understanding successful aging. Aging is understood as a process of adaptation in which personality is a key element. 8 different patterns of adjustment to aging are suggested. based upon different personality types. The individual, in order to age successfully, adapts to the biological and social changes occurring with age and also creates a pattern of life that gives his greatest ego involvement and satisfaction with life. Continuity theory or personality theory offers a multiplicity of adjustment patterns depending upon the personality type or internal and external structure of an individual. The disadvantage of this theory is the difficulty encountered in trying to test it empirically. Each individual's pattern of adjustment to old age requires a case study in which the researcher attempts to understand what degree the individual is able to continue his or her previous pattern of living. Let us now come to the fourth theory, which is the psychosocial theory of personality development. Erik Erikson in 1950 formulated a psychosocial theory of personality development comprising of 8 stages. Each of the stage has its own crisis with 2 opposing tendencies which need to be resolved. The resolution of the crisis requires integrating the personal needs with the societal demands and expectations. Successful resolution of the conflict leads to the development of virtue, which prepares the individual to handle future crises. On the other hand, failure to successfully resolve the crisis can lead to inadequacy in personality development. These psychosocial stages of development do not occur at the same intervals. The early stages occur in short time spans and are described in much more detail than the later ones. For example, the post-adolescent stage includes about 3/4 of the lifespan, but only the last 3 stages. This disparity reflects an increase in variability as one ages. The developmental tasks of an infant are more or less universal, whereas the later tasks are equally dependent on personal experiences and general principles underlying the stages. Later, Erik Erikson's wife, suggested that very old individuals may feel far from being wise as they come to terms with death and disability. She proposed a 9th stage where the older person confronts all the previous 8 stages again at the same time. The negative role of the crisis now takes a dominant role over the positive. There is an increased sense of despair and loss of autonomy. The task is to develop an attitude of retirement in relation to the world. If the older person is able to go past the despair, a new understanding of the meaning of life develops. And this is seen as developing an increasing spiritual perspective in life. This theory, despite being old, has collected only limited empirical evidence for the later stages, namely generativity versus stagnation and integrity versus despair. Longitudinal studies to assess whether the attainment of generativity in the middle life is a necessary precursor for attainment of integrity in old age are largely missing. The benefits of this theory are manifold. It was first theory that talked about lifespan personality development with focus on psychodynamic and social factors that led to the shaping of the individual psyche. Let us now come to the second generation or modern theories. In this, we will first study the lifespan development and aging. Since the beginning of the 1980s, a series of research was conducted on understanding the psychological processes involved in the lifespan development and aging by Paul Bates and his associates. According to his team, lifespan development and aging are marked by behavioral changes across lifespan. In order to understand aging from a psychological point of view, Bates has developed a theoretical framework of 7 propositions. First, optimal aging, normal aging and pathological aging are different from each other, and the former includes improving age-friendly environmental conditions. Second, the aging process differs across individuals, that is, it is heterogeneous. Third, there is a latent reserve of capacity in the aged. Fourth, there is aging loss in the range of reserve capacity or adaptability. Fifth, individual and social knowledge of facts, that is crystallized intelligence, increases with age and can compensate for age-related decline in the fluid intelligence. Sixth, as the person ages, the balance between gains and losses become increasingly negative. And seventh, the self remains resilient in old age, coping, and maintaining integrity to protect the self-esteem. Now let us come to the second theory, which is personality and aging theory. Personality can be defined as a set of characteristics, dispositions that determine attitudinal, emotional, experiential, interpersonal and motivational style of an individual. There are two main theoretical traditions in the field of personality and aging theory, namely the trait and the developmental stage models. In both the theoretical perspectives, the cardinal theme is to understand age-related changes in the stability of the personality traits. The first concerted effort to understand development of personality across the age span has been developed by Erik Erikson in 1915. Later, Levinson's theory in 1978 of personality and aging was based upon in-depth interviews with 40 men. It is a developmental stage model. Based upon the interviews, the life structure of an individual was conceptualized into a sequence of three phases: early adulthood, middle adulthood and late adulthood. The length of each period, its time of occurrence and the development that takes place during the phase differs across people depending on the biological, psychological and sociological conditions of one's life. Despite the individual's variations, a close sequence of three phases with age-related intervals was suggested by this theory. The biggest limitation of Levinson's theory is the impossibility of replicating the in-depth interviews with the respondents. Further, the interviews were conducted only with male respondents, which is a big limitation of this model. Trait theories of personality represent the second tradition in the theory of personality and aging. Overall, longitudinal studies conducted to understand personality traits have found structural stability and consistency in the personality of people. There has been reported a significant similar pattern in the factor structure across age groups over a period of time. Paul Costa and Robert McRae in 1988-1992, who have proposed the trait model of personality, found that the same five major factors, which are openness to experience, consciousness, extroversion, agreeableness and neuroticism, that is the ocean model, have emerged from longitudinal studies that used somewhat different approaches. Costa and McRae conclude that people have stable basic dispositions, particularly in the later course of life. More recently, the trait model of personality was extended to understand personality-related constructs like self-concept and locus of control. It has been reported through majority of studies that while personality traits remain stable with age, other related constructs like control, beliefs, values, self-concept and coping styles are more susceptible to change. Let us now come to the third theory here, which is called as the labeling theory. Labeling theory draws its roots from the social constructionism perspective. Herbert Mead suggested that self is socially constructed and reconstructed through the interactions of person with his or her community. The actions of a person are judged by others as he or she occupies certain roles in the society. The reaction of others determine whether the self is perceived in a favorable or an unfavorable light. Bengtson in 1973 suggested that the labeling theory can be insightful in explaining some of the behavior of the aged. The theory suggests that when negative labels like senile or old are given, they have a significant impact on the way the individual is perceived by others. All the people falling in a particular label are perceived to be alike and possess certain characteristics. This is similar to the process of stereotyping. The assertion of this theory is that one derives a self-concept based upon the label one gets, which in turn is dependent upon the interaction of the individual with his or her social milieu. Identity, roles and social position is being significantly determined by such labels. These labels are relatively permanent indicators of an individual's acquired identity, and once formed, these labels are difficult to change. Let us now understand the fourth theory, the exchange theory. This theory was propounded by James Dowd in 1975. It offers a new perspective to the aging process, which is a result of interaction between the individual and the social system. According to the theory, people enter into social relationships in order to derive rewards like power, recognition, security, love, sustenance, etc. In the process of attaining rewards, they also incur some costs like negative experiences, fatigue, monetary loss, emotional exhaustion, etc. Elderly find themselves in a vulnerable situation because of the deterioration in their bargaining position. Since with age a person's capacity to invest in social exchange decreases in terms of skills, monetary, physical investment, etc., hence they increasingly become dependent on what is available to them as their power to exercise influence on the environment decreases. Dowd 1975 argues that decreased social interaction ultimately forces the elderly to comply. The adults, by using their skills, knowledge and expertise, can bargain for wages in exchange. However, in the case of elderly, due to the mandatory requirement, they become dependent on medical care, retirement, pensions, etc. for sustenance. As opposed to the disengagement theory by Cumming and Henry 1961, which postulates disengagement as voluntary, exchange theory views the process of disengagement as a result of a series of exchange relations, in which the relative power of the aged vis-a-vis their exchange partner increasingly deteriorates. An imbalanced exchange ratio consequently results wherein the aged are forced to exchange compliance for their continued sustenance. This theory has few empirical applications so far, but it offers new insights in social aging process where aging is a phenomena of gradual powerlessness in social exchanges which ultimately culminates with compliance. This view offers a negative perspective to aging and ignores the potential of the older people, like wisdom, experience, knowledge, etc. in exercising their power in social relationships. In today's world, we have examples of many elderly who are powerful and influential due to expertise in their field. This theory is not applicable to such cases. Now let us understand the newer theories of aging. Under this, first is Gero Transcendence Theory. This theory was proposed by Dr. Lars Tonstam in the year 1989. It was a path-breaking theory that provided a scope for understanding the spiritual developments in the later stages of life. In contrast to the earlier theories which focused on maintaining optimal levels of activity or to sustain the activities of the middle age in order to stay physically and mentally healthy, this theory focused on disengagement from the worldly activities, not only to pave the way for the younger generation to take on the social roles earlier held by the old, but for a larger purpose of finding meaning in life and understanding reason for being. In the words of Tonstam, Gero Transcendence can be described as a shift from materialistic and rational vision to a more cosmic and transcendent one, normally followed by an increase in life satisfaction. One assumption behind this theory has that individual perception of reality undergo a change as the person matures. The achievement of Gero Transcendence is peculiar to the old age, since this maturation process is complete and the older individual starts evolving a spiritual perspective in life as he or she comes to terms with illness, loss and death. Let us now come to the second theory, which is Gyrodynamics or the branching theory. Gyrodynamics theory draws from the second law of thermodynamics and dynamic systems theory, which is the chaos theory. The second law of thermodynamics states that with age there is an increase in disorder or entropy which finally culminates with the death of the living system. Chaos theory proposes that external and internal fluctuations in the dynamic and unstable systems can cross a transformation point, also called the critical point. This passage through the critical point can trigger self-organization in the system and can create order out of disorder. This self-organization creates a pattern of change with the passage of time. From these 2 points of view, aging in humans can be conceived as a series of transformations resulting in lower or higher order structures, but gradually showing a movement towards disorder or entropy, finally causing the system's death. Well, now let us summarize what all we have learnt in this module. The psychosocial theories of aging offers a wide array of explanations and understanding into the process of aging. All the theories, irrespective of the time that they were formulated, have guided research course. None of the theories have been fully validated or rejected because there is still scope of unraveling more intricate processes that can offer explanations to what these theories postulate. The early or the classical theories focused more on the aging individual. Aging was primarily conceived as a struggle to maintain activities of the middle age, or continuance of previous roles, or gradual disengagement from the society. However, with the emergence of the modern theories, the focus shifted from focusing only on the individual to understanding the social relationship between the aged and his or her environment to explain the aging process. Finally, the new theories of gerontology recognizes the potentialities of the aged and seeing aging as a process of unleashing the hidden spiritual potential and attaining meanings in life. No matter which theory proves to be the most useful to the academicians and practitioners, there seems to be little doubt that all the theories offer alternative explanations to the aging process and offer new directions for future research in this field.